Greetings, everyone. Greetings, greetings, greetings. Another nice day. When I was a child growing up in Barbados, I used to hear that sound 2, 3 times a week. People who coming around selling vegetables and fish. Potatoes, yams, cassava, pigeon peas, that Jamaica call them gunga. Another weekend, the black-skinned Indians, the one the British brought to Guyana and Trinidad as slaves to replace the Africans who they claimed to freed. They claimed that ended slavery, but they went to India and took the lower caste and brought them to the Caribbean as slaves. I often used to wonder about Gandhi and his hatred of black folks, of black-skinned people, and how people will revere him. Man who left India and went to South Africa, joined the South African army to stop the uprising of African people for their freedom. There you go again. And they hail him as a peacemaker. Anyway, I'm drifting off the subject. Yep. Neighborhoods, communities. Now Barbados has given up on that. Here is one of the few places in the world where you will see this. Day in, beginning early in the morning, and in the evening, people come around selling stuff. I see it in Africa too. In Gambia, I see people, well, only Gambia, but Gambia is a place where you see people walking 10, 20 kilometers from village to village, carrying so much stuff in bags and on racks. Some people who can afford a motorcycle have one. And that motorcycle is loaded. I mean, I've seen people on motorcycles stop and the motorcycles just tip over. But they have a route and they follow that route from village to village, replenishing the small shops. Here in the Philippines, they call them sari-sari stores. In Barbados, they call them rum shops. One time, they used to call them apothecary because you can get candy, Shirley biscuits, Eclipse biscuits, soda bakes, flour, sugar on one side of the bar. On one side and the other side, they have a bar. Neighborhood. It's coming a time when if Africa doesn't stand up, the people in the diaspora are going to have to come and set up their leadership. And I'll tell you what happens. Your children are going to go to school in the schools that African children go to school in. If you put them in a private school, it's going to create a problem. Children are going to have to go to school in the schools that Africans go to school. And you are going to have to pay the teachers to teach what you know your children should learn, leaving out the miseducation, the false teachings that get taught to us by the Caucasian. The African jump into that because he wants to go to Europe and America. And it's a way to make money. Yes, they make money off. You leave Africa making $2 and go to England making 300, or America making 300. Even if it's minimum wage, you're still making a lot of money. A lot of those guys go work 4 jobs, 3 jobs, 5, 6 of them living in one room or one house. Their education, they don't see it that way. They see it as them making lots of money and becoming rich. But you're making 300, but you're not looking at the person who is paying you, and they're making 3 billion. It's not I'm getting my education and coming back to Africa to build Africa. I'm getting my education and staying there to help add value to the country that I'm in. If you look at all the patents that were applied for, you will find so many Nigerian, Ghanaians, Zimbabweans, South Africans, their names are on the patents. But guess the company who they work for is making tons of money. There's one Ghanaian brother that, hey, the internet, the internet, even the fiber optic cables that they use to transmit the information on. Africans got their hand in it. Not only Africans from Africa, but Africans in America whose foreparents were slaves. Coming back to Africa to build going to entail us sending our children to the schools that African children go to school. Our children will change the mindset of the African from self-destruction to self-building. And when I say self-destruction, I don't mean the type that they have in America where young black men harm each other. I'm talking about where African destroy the country from within. the whole country, not just one individual. And the death of one individual is just as important as the death of a country. Don't get me wrong. You will understand that going forward, because one person, I suppose, take me for instance, I grew up poor. This is just an example now. My father before me grew up poor. He grew up in a village where the chief and the king had all the resources. They lived lavishly, starved the rest of the population into slaving for them. Then my father came along, a couple of cows, and my brothers and I go out, and one of my brothers become a doctor. One of my brothers become an engineer through the hard work of our father. Now, if our father was killed by somebody in our community, guess what happened to that doctor and that engineer? Never exists. So that's why I said the destruction of one life can be just like the destruction of a country. If that engineer can build a country, that doctor can build a country, that doctor can create a health system, that engineer can start building structures that transform the country. So our children can change their mindset. In Africa now, when we come to Africa, the African who was born in Africa sees us coming with money and not understanding how we earned it. He wants to get it by any means necessary. Many will cross the big oceans to get to where they think you can get that money. A lot die. Now, just imagine if 60 years ago, the people who were put in charge of the African states set a course, and they set up a program to build their own states and not loot this state. Where would the average African be today? We would be on par with China. And don't forget now, China wasn't free until Chiang Kai-shek was kicked out. Chiang Kai-shek was the Caucasian man in China. And guess what China had to go through? To get to where it was. A lot of suffering. But Africa went through the suffering without gains. Went through the suffering, and only the chiefs, the governors, and the kings gained. The people didn't gain anything. So like I said, gonna have to come back. Our children are gonna have to go to school with African children. We're gonna have to build those hospitals, those schools, we are going to have to teach that if you want to have something, you gotta make it yourself. Don't depend on, show that, you have to show that depending on the Caucasian, the EU, anybody, Japanese, Chinese, it will benefit the richest and not the African, the poor. The richest get their cut from the top. If I come to Africa, when I get there, the government charges me a tax. The wealthy in the government get paid from that tax. None of it gets down to the poor people on the street. It's only if I give that poor man on the street something, if I say I build a school in his neighborhood and hire a teacher to teach his children, that's the only time he benefits. So I hope you get what I'm talking about. Hope you see that this is a necessity. The other thing that's going to change is the mindset of the average African towards us, the returning African. Now he's got to protect you because he sees that you are building something in the neighborhood. He sees that his children are benefiting. So he has to protect you. So you see one, not just one benefit as in the case of today when the upper class benefit and nothing happens to the rest. Everyone benefits. See, the African leadership can't tolerate everyone benefiting, because then people start looking at them and say, now I realize what you were doing. Come here, let me judge you right now. Come to court tomorrow. Either you bring all your money that you've been taking and put it into this fund that is going to benefit our state, or you have to leave. They can't educate Africans because they know that will happen. So we have to do it. The people from the diaspora, whether you be African born and went to away, or abroad, as they call it, or foreign, like you call it in Jamaica, you know, abroad in Barbados, foreign in Jamaica. You're still coming back to do something. And no matter how small it is, you're doing something. Even if you're growing food, you grow one crop. Is a crop that was never growing before you got there. I can make this thing really long, but I'm gonna stop because I know people who listen to me, the people who watch my video, listen to my videos actually, not watch, because I'm not standing in front of the camera because I don't want people to be looking at me and say, you know, his hair don't look good today, this shirt, I don't like his shirt. Nope, you're hearing the information. Those of you who hear that information think it's right, well, see, use it. Those who don't, well, later on, when things happen that they see, man, I heard about that. It's like a little kid. My son told me, Dad, you know, you told me about this thing years ago. After he became an adult, had his own son, he came back to me. I was shocked. He said, "Yeah, you told me about this. Something happened the other day, and I remember you said something about that to me." I said, "Man, you remembered that?" I said, "Yes." Anyway, have a great day wherever you are. Peace.